Hey Ron, thanks for joining us here today.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
Really.
So, why don't we just start off and sharing a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and why you joined the military?
Okay, my name is Ron Pulizotto. Grew up in Brooklyn, New York,
Nice.
and until I was like 10 years old. Then we moved out to Long Island, and it was a big change for me moving from Brooklyn to Long Island because in Brooklyn we played in the streets
Mm-hmm.
and played stickball, everything.
Fire
Everything's in the
hydrants.
streets,
Yeah,
you know.
the Bronx for you.
Yeah, okay. It was just streets, and look, a car is coming, so we got to stop playing.
Yeah,
All of this good stuff. But we made things happen. All constantly kept busy. In the neighborhood, everybody took care of everybody else in the neighborhood. Move it to Long Island. Now, I find areas that there's grass and
yeah.
ball fields. So I'm finding kids in the neighborhood and say, hey, don't you want to play ball? No. I said, but you got grass, you got a ball field, and all the rest of this. Don't you want to play ball? Couldn't find anybody to play ball with.
That's funny.
So I get on my bike and drive different neighborhoods until I find a game going on and say, hey, can I join you? And that's how I started to grow up. Then I started delivering newspapers. And as I was delivering the newspapers, the space race was going on. I see rocket ships going up and exploding. And then Sputnik happened in 1957. And I said, wow, this is pretty interesting. So I got interested in the rockets and astronauts and things like that. Going back to Brooklyn, I'll tell you one thing too. There was a naval base nearby called Floyd Bennett Field, and it was an air base. The planes used to come over our houses in Brooklyn, and as a kid, I'd run out and I'd wave my arms at the planes like this. And the pilot sometimes would move the planes from side to side. So I was all excited about that. So anyway, as I grew up on Long Island and stuff like that, my brother was 10 years older than me. He joined the Navy. And by him joining the Navy, I got a little interested in what that was all about, the Navy and stuff. Used to watch movies on TV called Victory at Sea. It was the name of the show. And you see all of these battles of World War II of these ships, uh, United States ships, and the waves and what was going on with these battles out at sea. And that sort of like interested me too. And then when I finished high school on Long Island, that was Syosset, Long Island, by the way. I finished high school there. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I went to 1 year of college. As I'm in college, the Cuban Missile Crisis breaks out back in '62. So I go, wow, this is a little scary. I remember driving home and they're talking about the countdown because President Kennedy made a blockade of Cuba with ships. So a naval force was there to prevent the Russian ships from coming in and drop these missiles off at Cuba. So now I got interested in that, what was going on. So that's how I got more and more interested in the Navy instead of anything else. But I'm still going to college, but now that year of college was over and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I wasn't ready for college, I felt at the time. Uh, it's I was 17 years old when I graduated high school, first of all, so I was still very young. So when I got out, when that summer break came, I said, I guess maybe I'll join the Navy or the military. I didn't want to tell my parents to um, disappoint them that don't want to go to college anymore. So I went to my brother's house, my older brother, 10 years old, older than I was, and I told him what I wanted to do, and he goes, wait. You don't just go and just join like that. I go, well, why not, Sal? He goes, no, this is what you're going to do. He says, because if you join, you got to put in 4 years altogether. You got to put in 6 years altogether at that time, but 4 years active duty, and then 2 years reserve time. He says, why don't you join the reserve, the Naval Reserve? This way you only put in 2 years active duty, and then you have 4 year commitment for reserve time. But after 2 years, if you really enjoy everything, you could ship over and put in more time. So he says, oh, all right. So he brought me down to the recruiting office right then and there. in Huntington, New York. And it's like, okay, I'm really doing this. So I get into it and I join in 1963. They sent me to boot camp. After boot camp, we come out and I have about a year before I go on to active duty because in the reserves you can go 2 weeks a year. You pick a ship that you'd like to go on. They'd have like a billet quarterly that would say these ships are going here, what dates and stuff like that. So I saw something in like February that was going to Puerto Rico. And I go, well, that's not bad. In the winter, I could take a ship to Puerto Rico. What a deal this is.
Choose.
Yes. So that was pretty neat. So then I had to make a choice of finally saying when I'm going to go on active duty. So I go on active duty in November of 1964. All right. My parents dropped me off at the Brooklyn Navy Yard. I'm there for about a month until I get my orders to go on a ship. I get the orders to go on a ship. Now my brother had told me, he says, make sure you always, they're going to ask what kind of stations you want to do. What kind of ship you want to be on. So tell them, but the destroyer. And I go, Sal, why a destroyer? He goes, I'm telling you, the destroyer, you go all over the world. He says, that's the best thing to get on. I says, well, what happened to you? You didn't get on a destroyer. He goes, I put in for that. He says, but what happened is when they gave me my orders of where I'm going, he says, I looked at it and I said, oh, wow, I'm going to Argentina. He was all excited. And the recruiter goes, what do you mean you're going to Argentina? He goes, yeah. He says, this is Argentina. He says, no, you're going to Argentia, Newfoundland. So my brother goes, Newfoundland? He goes, that's cold weather. So I said, yes.
From exotic to cold.
Yes. So he thought he was going to Argentina, but it was Argentia, Newfoundland, which looked the same to him on a piece of paper.
Right.
So anyway, so I get my orders to go on this ship, and it's up in Newport, Rhode Island.
Yeah, that's good.
So they send me up to Newport, Rhode Island, take a train, which was a nice, long ride by train. I get there with my orders and everything else. Now this was about right around, well, I know exactly when. It was December 12th, 1965, December 12th. No, 1964. I am so sorry. It's December 12th, 1964. And the ship just came back from what they called Operation Blue Nose. They were up at the Arctic Circle.
Okay.
So the bow of the ship was painted blue. Now, these are all destroyers. Newport was a destroyer town. They had all of these ships lined up because Christmas time was coming. So they had all of these lights around the whole ship. It was so beautiful to see. I'm going, wow, this is really gorgeous. I got my sea bag with me. I report to duty. And since they just came back, most of the crew, they went on liberty or their leave. And there was a small amount of crew, but I had to report someplace, so they put me on the deck force. So I was on the deck force for a while until the executive officer came in and had a meeting with me and says, okay, so what would you like to, what do you want to strike for while you're in the service here in the Navy? And I says, well, I want to be a radarman. He goes, okay. Well, did you go to radar school? I go, no. He says, well, you have to go to what they call a Class A school. I go, I don't know anything about that. So he goes, well, do you want to really be a radarman? I said, yes. So he goes, well, then you have to sign up for school. So I said, all right, what do I have to do? So he had papers to fill out. He says, all right, so what you have to do is, he says, you're going to fill out this paperwork, and when there's an opening to go to radar school, which is in Chicago, Illinois, he says, we'll send you there. But meanwhile, you're going to be on the ship here. We'll put you on the radar gang so you get used to it and everything else, what it's all about and that stuff. I go, oh, okay, great. So with that, I signed this paper. And he says, now remember, by you signing this, you have to put in an extra year for radar school. So now you're going to have 3 years of active duty. I go, oh. I said, so now I'm committed to another year? And he goes, yes. I go, well, to get to radar school and get into radar, that's what I'll do. So I did it. Didn't go to radar school. The ship went out to sea. We went out to Gitmo and stuff like that, and uh, started to realize what it's like to be out at sea, feeling all the waves, getting bounced around before I got my sea legs. And there really is a thing about having your sea legs, I'll tell you that, because you get knocked from side to side. Your head gets hit on the bulkheads or going through passageways. Your head gets. Destroyer is a small ship. You got to realize that. And we feel every little wave that there is out there. So while I'm on watch, somebody tells me about correspondence course. So I go, all right. So I find out all the paperwork, fill out all the paperwork for correspondence courses for radar men. So I do all of this stuff. I'm taking these courses, reading the book, filling out the pages, sending the paperwork in. Nothing is done on a computer. You got to mail everything in. It takes time. You get the next thing back. Before you know it, the test was coming up for radarmen, third class radarmen, stuff like that. And the other guys in the radar had already gone to radar school. So they're going to be set to go to this class. Myself, I didn't go to the school, but I completed this correspondence course. So I says, am I eligible to take this test? And they go, well, you got all of this stuff, and yeah. So I says, oh, all right. So when the test came, I took the test with the rest of them, and they go, well, wait a second, you didn't go to the school. I said, well, I took the correspondence course, so I know all the same stuff. Yeah, but you didn't go to the school. I go, I know. I says, but this is what they told me I could do, so I did it. So it worked out good for me. And sometimes in my life, I swear, I felt like I was Forrest Gump, just running into things at the different times and stuff.
That's your path.
Yeah, it just being born in Brooklyn and being in the city, you learn to be a go-getter.
Yes.
You don't sit still. You know, if there's
No,
something,
it's no
opportunity
better, no
there,
loss.
you go for it. There's an opportunity, you see something, hey, you don't stand still. You go for it.
Absolutely.
So, anyway, so I got to be a radarman third class. So now our ship is making that first cruise, and then we get back to Newport, Rhode Island, and we're going on another cruise now. That's what happens with destroyers. You're hardly in port. You're always out at sea. So now I got my sea legs. I'm see what it's like. They had me doing mess cook duty because everybody has to do that. That's sort of like KP in the Army. You got to take care of all the food stuff and clean the tables. Yeah. And we were out at sea, and it was very rough. And guys are getting sick left and right. I never got sick until I saw others getting sick, and then that made me get sick. But once that was passed, and it was okay. But you did this stuff, and you got to be really good with your buddies and everybody else on board the ship, which was kind of cool. The other things that were like neat is when you're out at sea, you didn't have supplies, so you start to run short on different food. So you have to meet up with another ship out at sea. So your two ships come together, you meet up, and you stay on the same speed and course. You're not variation at all. You're staying together, but you're moving. The supply ship has like a little gun. They shoot a ball over with a little tiny rope to it, and it comes onto our ship. Now everybody runs to get that ball, and we get it, and then we bring that line over, and then then that line is attached to a bigger line, and you bring that line over, and then that's attached to another bigger line, and it gets onto pulleys and everything else, and everybody's pulling together. You have about 20, 30 guys pulling. Then the supplies start coming over. It'll be with food and things like that, and then as it comes over, the supply person was in charge. Say, okay, this goes over here, things go over here, what goes to different departments and stuff like that. And the guys start picking stuff up, and you go to where they tell you to bring it. Now, one of my guys, there was some pies. So they took the pies, and it was supposed to go a certain place. No, he brought it up into the radar room.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the captain was up there, but the captain didn't say anything. He said, "All right, well, I'll close my eyes," you know. But anyway, so it was a lot of fun, a lot of hard work and stuff like that. But when the ships are going together like that, you sometimes the water, because you're splashing the water against each other.
The wakes.
Yeah, and it's like you see the water spraying up in the air and all the rest of the stuff. And then sometimes we would have to highline a person over. Same thing, you're moving, and you're bringing this guy over, and he's on this little basket, and he's going down, and he comes back up, and he goes down, and he comes back up, and you get him across, and everything else.
That's crazy.
We'd have things like that. So
That's awesome. Well, let me ask you this: while you served, I mean, they typically say two people you never forget in the military: your recruiter and your instructor. Um, is there somebody in your service that was influential to you that till this day you still either think about them or you remember or you utilize something that they imparted with you?
the thing is, my fellow shipmates, basically,
Whole group, yeah.
well, a few guys, Bob Barella, Skip Heinrichs, we just went out on Liberty together and did all sorts of things together. And somebody that really influenced me was my brother more than anybody.
It sounds like it. Sal played a lot of part.
Sal was a big part of me. He really was. He passed away this past year, but it was very tough on me.
Yeah.
Still is, but anyway, it's something I'll never get over.
Right.
But he was the biggest influence that I ever had.
Do you have any other siblings?
I have a sister,
Okay.
and she was very. I was the youngest, so we're all 5 years apart.
Oh, okay.
So, but and my parents had a business in Manhattan doing women's dresses.
Oh,
So I never used to see them. I had a little Italian grandmother that used to ran the household.
Yeah.
She did everything,
Good deal.
but she was only 4'8". So
So in Vietnam, you weren't part of the draft?
what happened with Vietnam? No, it wasn't any part of the draft. But our ship was in Newport, Rhode Island. So we was on a cruise picking up the Gemini 4 astronauts.
Okay.
Which was, I told you earlier, that I was very interested in the space program.
Yeah.
And here I was lucky to be part of this recovery team for the Gemini 4 astronauts. So after we picked up the astronauts, we went back to our base and at Newport, and then we went to New York Harbor. This was in August of '65. While we were in New York Harbor, it was like a Fleet Week, but it wasn't really Fleet Week back then. They called it something else. And people would come on board the ship to see what it's like. Civilians would see what it's like and everything else. And all of a sudden, they called everybody back to the ship. And our ship had to leave right away. So our ship leaves, and the buzz around the ship was that, hey, are we going to Vietnam? We can't go to Vietnam. We're Atlantic Coast destroyer squadron. They can't send us to Vietnam. We get back to Newport, Rhode Island, and all sorts of things are happening. They're putting machine guns on board, 50 caliber machine guns on board our ship, putting them in there and everything else, and taking other things off and changing all sorts of things on board the ship. In a month's time, we were back out at sea, and while we were out at sea, the captain gave us the orders that we were going to Vietnam. We were going to be the first destroyer squadron to go over to Vietnam to help out in the Pacific for the 7th Fleet. So this was in '65, and we went through the Panama Canal from there, and we picked up 2 other destroyers to make it a destroyer squadron of 8. Picked up these other 2 destroyers from Norfolk, Virginia, and went to Gitmo again to get all sorts of other supplies that we needed. Then we went through the Panama Canal, went across to Hawaii. As we pull into Hawaii, they had all of these fireboats welcoming us with spraying the water and everything else. And once again, as a young kid, this was like, what's going on here? Why are they It's because we were the first destroyer squadron to come to help out in the Pacific. That has never happened
Oh, wow.
in such a long time.
Sure.
It was just the Pacific took care of the Pacific, the Atlantic Fleet took care of the Atlantic Fleet. So we went over to help out to relieve the other destroyers because they were doing a lot of work.
Right.
So that was a big thing for when we got to Hawaii, the recognition there. So from Hawaii, we go to Midway. Now at Midway, who pulls into Midway Island with us? A Japanese fleet.
Oh,
Now this is the first time it's ever happened since the Battle of Midway that the Japanese and American ships were in Midway Island. And now I'm getting a history lesson from the older guys on board my ship.
historic.
I'm getting a history lesson from them. And they're going, "You don't understand the Midway?" I says, "No, what's the Battle of Midway?" And they told me all about the Battle of Midway. I says, "Wow, that's pretty interesting." So with that, we go meet up. From there, we go to Japan, and then Subic Bay, Philippines, and then we got orders to hook up with the USS Enterprise, the first nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, and this is the first time that ship is being used in battle as a nuclear aircraft carrier. So we had to be what they called station guard ship. So we would be behind the carrier, and it was a plane guard detail. So when the planes would take off and land on board the ship,
Yeah.
sometimes a plane might miss and go into drink, and we'd have to be there to pick up the pilots and stuff like that. So it was interesting to see this big aircraft carrier, which was enormous compared to our little ship. It's like we were in like a rowboat to something else. It was unbelievable. But so then from there, we went, did that a few times. Then we got orders to go on the Army or the Marines would call us up on station because the destroyer, we can get in pretty close to shore for the shore bombardments. They would call us and give us coordinates of where there would be activity that they needed help with.
Okay.
So we get, once again, in radar, we had control, it was called the Combat Information Center, CIC.
Okay.
So we had control of everything, talking to other ships, talking to the Marines or the Air or the Army guys that would call us up. They were called spotters. They would call us up and say, "Hey, we need some gunfire support over here." We tell them what they tell us what the coordinates were. We had a big map of the area, and we had this board that would show underneath there was a light and would show the movement. It had the movement of the ship, but it made it look like the land was moving. It was very interesting. So that's how we would figure out, okay, so this ship is permanent, but it's really moving. But on this board, it made it easier because if you have a gun, you're not going to be running with the gun and shooting.
Right.
So you made it look like we're standing still and the land is moving,
Huh.
even though we're moving. So the land is moving, and we get the coordinates, and then we'd be able to figure out what how to send the guns out, and we relayed the information to the gun control people, and the ship would fire these 5-inch 38 guns, and the ship would move. Every time you had to put cotton in your ear,
Surely,
but
yes.
if you're wearing headsets, you couldn't do that. So you put it in one ear and just have one headset on one side because you still had to communicate. So that part was kind of scary as a first timer, and you're hearing this noise and the ship is getting bounced, and then you get ringing in your ear after a while too, and everything. It was starting to
Little
happen.
thing called tinnitus.
Yes, exactly.
Little
Yeah.
thing called tinnitus.
Yes, it's
Standard
like
edition tinnitus.
yes, it was. So that happened quite a few times. We go on station. You felt good because they'd come back and tell you, say, you destroyed a bridge for us, or you destroyed a supply area that the Viet Cong had. So even though we weren't on land, we felt good that we're helping out our buddies that were in the other branch of the service, where they're calling for us, our help, and we're there for them. Excuse me. So that was some of the stuff that we did, and then we had to do in Da Nang, we had to be harbor control ship for Da Nang in the month of January of 1966 for the whole month. With that, during the daytime, we'd be anchored out in the harbor of Da Nang, and you'd see these helicopters going out and doing their missions to help out with the Army, with the Marines. Then they'd be coming back to the base there. Now at night, we had to pull out and go back and forth for the entrance of the harbor to make sure no foreign ships get in there, submarines and things like that.
Right.
And one time we spotted because in the radar room or CIC, Combat Information Center, not only did we have radar, we had the sonar guys were there too. And the sonar is the one to see the ships underneath the water. So with the sonar, they picked something up. And so with them picking something up, we'd had to tell the captain or the officer of the deck, hey, we got a contact over here. It's moving at such and such a speed in such and such a direction. We recommend we follow. So they would follow the ship, the contact, and we'd follow it for this one contact. We followed it for days. We couldn't bring it up. We knew it was a Russian submarine, but then we realized it had to be nuclear because we couldn't get it to come up to the surface for a periscope to get their air and everything else. So after a while, we lost it. Yeah, it was pretty. Yeah.
So in total, how many years did you serve?
Active duty was 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Then I went into the reserves and did my reserve time, and then I shipped over in the reserves for 4 more years. So altogether, I did about 11 years at that time, and then I got out. And then I decided, not that I wanted to decide to get out, but situation at that time had to make me. Well, my ex-wife at that time didn't like me going away 2 weeks a year.
Of course, yeah.
So I says, all right,
So be it.
all right. So,
The powers that
but I wanted to put in 20 years to get a little pension from the government.
yeah,
I
understood.
wanted to do 20 years, even though it was reserve time. I'd do 20 years. So we did that, and like I said, you still did some cruises and things like that. But another thing I didn't bring up too is while we were in Vietnam, we're going back and forth because from Vietnam we'd go over to the Philippines to get supplies, or we meet other ships out at sea to get supplies and stuff like that. But this one time, going over to the Philippines, we on board ship you get used to the movement of the ship, the pitch and the back and forth of the ship while you're sleeping in your rack. Besides when you're walking around or on watch. While we're sleeping in my rack, you feel the ship going here and going there, up and down. You know the motion. All of a sudden it's going up and the ship is going down. And it's going down. And it's going down. With that, I jump out of my rack. I was on the top rack. Other guys jump out. And then we hear this tremendous bang, this noise. It was unbelievable. All of a sudden, all sorts of alarms go off, and they call general quarters. What happened is we hit the officer of the deck, said it was a typhoon, a tidal wave. But as the years went on, we realized it was what they call a rogue wave, which was a tremendous wave. And what it did, it busted on the forward compartments, a watertight door got smashed in. It was buckled like this. The ladder was smashed, was washed away. It was where the executive officer's stateroom was. That was all busted in and water got into it and everything else. So after that, we had to go into Taiwan to get repaired and stuff like that. But that was I thought it was over. Because like I said, you feel the ship going down, and you feel it going down.
Waves up to 50, 60 feet.
Easy.
Absolutely. Well, so obviously it was time for you to go. You separation, but when you left active duty, National Guard, where did you wind up going to? Like what state?
Oh, I stayed in New York.
Oh, you stayed in New York. So,
Yeah.
so when did you come down to Florida? What was that transition? Like came out.
Oh, that was, well, when I got off of active duty, and I went back to the reserves on Long Island, still, living with my parents still, and uh, got a job within 3 weeks for IBM, working in Manhattan.
Okay, good.
There was a little ad in the paper. My uncle says, "Hey, Ronnie, why don't you put in for this? They're looking. IBM's a very good company. Why don't you put in for this?" I said, "I don't even know what the heck it's about." And they're looking for people to fix electric typewriters. So I became an electric typewriter repairman.
Imagine that.
I'm,
Little company called IBM.
and I wound up working on Wall Street, downtown Manhattan, and commuting back and forth and going to these secretarial pools. And here I am, now I'm like 21, 22 years old. All of these girls, beautiful girls in the secretary pool, say, "I gotta fix your typewriter." Okay. So, yeah, it was pretty cool. So from there, I got with IBM for 20-something years,
Okay.
and then I got into fixing copy machines with IBM because I got into the copier business, and from that we Kodak bought our division out.
Okay.
So when Kodak bought our division out, they made a deal with the guy because they needed our service. They said, "If you want to stay with IBM, you can stay with IBM, but we're going to offer you all sorts of different things." And what would make you come over to Kodak? So I says, "You know what?" I says, "My parents moved down to Florida." I says, "So would I be able to get a transfer to Florida?" And they go, "Well, we can't honor something like that." I says, "Well, if you want me to come with you, this is
Get me out
what
of
I
the
want to
snow.
do." Yeah. I says, "Get me down there." And they go, "Well, we'll see. So what are your chances of coming over to Kodak?" I go, "Well, it's zero unless you get me over to to Florida. Otherwise, I'm going to stay with IBM. It's a good company here." And he says, "Well, all right, well, we'll get in touch with you." I'm at home. I got a phone call, and it's one of the directors of Kodak, and he goes, "Listen, Mr. Pulizotto," he says, "we can't get you there right now, but what if we promise to get you there within a year?" I says, "If you promise me that?" And he says, "Yes." And they call me at home. I says, "All right, okay, then I'll do it." And they says, "Okay, fantastic." So they about a month later they call me back. They says, "There's an opening in Tallahassee. Would you want to go to Tallahassee?" This is when I feel like I'm Forrest Gump. They say, "Oh, there's an opening in Tallahassee." So I go, "I don't even know anything about Tallahassee." I says, "My parents live down in Pinellas County." I says, in Florida, St. Pete Beach. So I says, "Well, I have to see what it's like. I don't want to just make a decision like that." And they says, "Well, we'll have the manager call you." I says, "All right." So the manager calls me up, real Southern accent now, calls me up and he goes, "Hey, Ron?" And I says, "Yeah, this is Ron." He goes, "Is Ron Pulizotto?" I says, "Yes, yes, sir." And he says, "Well, this is Charlie." I says, "Yeah, Charlie, how are you?" I says, "I'm looking to come to Tallahassee." He goes, "Well, that could be a problem." I go, "Why?" He says, "I'll tell you the truth." He says, "You got a very thick New York accent." And that's not going to gel well up here. I said, "Are you serious?" So with that, I didn't go to Tallahassee. So I told him, I said, "No, I don't want to do that." So then he says, "Oh," then they call me back and something else happened in the middle of the state. And I said, "No, I don't want to do that." Before you knew it, they had somebody that wanted to go to Tallahassee that was in Tampa. So they took the job in Tallahassee. I wound up taking the job in Tampa, and that's how I got down to Florida.
There you go.
But it was pretty cool stuff. But
Good.
other than that, I got something else I just got to tell you, a real quick story too. This was when on that world cruise, because we wound up making I don't know if I told you, we took a world cruise from going to Vietnam, instead of going back through the Panama Canal, we went back around the world. So we crossed the equator doing that. By crossing the equator, it's a big Navy celebration where you have to crawl around the whole ship, say all of these different things, and King Neptune comes on. There's the whole the royal court is what they call it. So if you have already crossed the equator, you could do the initiations on the ones who haven't done it yet. So since I wasn't, they called us a polywog, so I had to crawl around the ship, and you had to go through all of these initiations. You see the royal barber, and he puts grease in your hair. You see the royal dentist, he squirts hot sauce in your ear, in your mouth, and all sorts of fun things like that. And then they dunk you in a tank, and they say, "What are you?" And they say, "I'm a polywog." No, bring it down and dunk you 3 times. And kept on saying, "I'm a grimy, greasy polywog." And I, "No, now you're a shellbacker." So now you got your shellbacker patch and all the rest of this stuff. It was pretty cool stuff.
Nice.
Then we go into, this is what was so great about the Navy. When my brother was so right. Get on a destroyer, you see the world. We pull into Naples, Florida. Naples, Italy. My buddies, Bob Barella, Skip Heinrichs, and a couple of others, we go down to Rome. While we're in Rome, all of these, the streets are lined with military people. So we go into this little cafe to get a pizza or something, get something to eat. And like I said, what's going on here with all of these people lined up? And it's the road that's going right into the Vatican. So we're inside this pizza parlor. I always took movies. I had my movie camera with me wherever I went. I took movies. So without voice, it was just still regular movies, So
That's funny.
we're going through, and there's getting a big crowd outside. More and more and more people. Boy, I hear people are screaming and yelling. So we get up to go see what was going on while we're eating, and we say, "What's going on?" Some people were leaving the place. We run out there. Now that it's like so deep, we couldn't even get to the curb. So I see this telephone pole down the block. Not a telephone, but a light pole. Looking at the Vatican, there's this light pole. I go running down to the light pole. I climb up the light pole with my movie camera in my hand. And I'm going like this and waiting for the Pope to come down. He comes down with this motorcade, stops right in front of me in a convertible, and all the dignitaries go out to him, and they kiss his ring right in front of me. And I got all of these movies, and I'm taking these movies. Meanwhile, somebody's pulling on my shirt. I said, "What the heck you want? Leave me alone. We're taking a movie, for crying out loud." He's pulling on my shirt and pulling on my shirt. I go, "All right, what is it?" He goes, "You no pay the bill." We ran out of the restaurant. We didn't pay the bill.
But you got some good footage, though.
Very good footage. And now I'm in the process of putting all of that together onto
That's
something.
awesome.
Yeah, I got all of these
That's great.
movies.
So, ask you have any kids through the whole grandkids, kids?
I have a son, a daughter, and I have a stepdaughter. Since she was like 3 years old, she's my daughter.
Your daughter.
She's my daughter, 100%. I got Christopher, Nicole, and Stacy, and I got and the grandkids. They're all girls. I got a granddaughter, Emily, Olivia, Sydney, Emerson, and Ellison, and one great granddaughter, another granddaughter,
Yeah.
Bailey.
Christopher better step
Yeah,
it up there, boy.
You
Gotta
ain't
keep
kidding.
that bloodline
I
going.
know. So
That's great.
And most of them live down here except for Emily and Bailey. They live up in New Hampshire.
Right.
But it's a great. I love my grandkids. I love kids anyway,
That's
no matter
very-
what.
that's very good.
It's they're my pride and joy. Just being with them and teaching them different things.
That's really good.
But it's a different world for them. I try to say things to them, but they know more things than I do when it comes to
Everything now.
with the electronic stuff. I have to
Right,
ask them what to do. I don't know what to do with any of that stuff, but they're great kids. The 2 girls play soccer, and one's my daughter actually got a soccer scholarship back in 1996, to go to college.
Yeah.
For a girl back then,
It's a
that was
lot.
unusual.
Absolutely, especially. Oh, that's good to know. So just a couple more questions.
Sure.
That's,
Wow.
that's good stuff. Um,
I mean, I could talk forever,
oh,
but
yeah, we can do this all day, which we'll talk about that after.
okay.
With everything up to the point of you finally signing your separation papers, you're done, you're out of the military. What was there one thing that you could say that you could walk away from your time in the military that still stays with you today, other than like some guys would say honor and this or just doing the right thing? Is there something that you could turn
Well, it
around
was
and
a
say,
yeah, it was a pleasure and an honor to serve the greatest country in the world. I'll tell you that right now. It really was. Like that American flag meant a lot to us. But all I could say is that just always do the right things. Take care of, learn. Children need to learn today how to take care of finances, because that is so important. But that's something they don't teach in school, which they really should teach in school. Finances, how to do different things like that, and have respect for people. And that's one thing that the service shows you is respect.
yes,
Respect is very, very important. And always have a smile on your face. Life is too short. Enjoy it.
right,
Have a smile on your face. Laugh at things. Don't let things get too stressful for you. Be kind to people. Do all the things that, what do they say? Do unto others as you want others to do unto you. It's a simple thing. Very simple. Do unto others as you want others to do unto you.
well, that's kind of goes on to my last question. Maybe it might change or not, but
Wow.
is there something now that we're near the end of this whole thing? Is there some parting words here that you would like to leave with your family after they look at this years down the line? If you do, look right over there and share with
Oh,
them.
to my family, I just love yous. You're the best. I hope I did everything right for yous. I hope I put you in the right direction. If not, I'm gonna make sure you do get in the right direction once I'm up there, and take care of you. I'll look over everybody, but just always be loving and caring. That's the main thing. Just loving and caring. There's nothing in this world that can make things terrible or difficult. Just smile, and the whole world smiles with you. Dance. Be happy. Just love one another. Hug one another. Tell them how much you love them. Tell them what they're doing wrong if there's something that's bothering you. There's nothing wrong with speaking up. Talking. Talking is the best thing in the world to do. Don't be afraid. But always keep a smile on that face. All right? That's all I can say. I love yous all. I love everybody. Take care.